Good evening. I'm Kevin O'Hare, and as director of the Royal Ballet, I'm really happy to welcome you here to the Claw studio upstairs at the Royal Opera House. Tonight's a very special night because we're going to meet the iconic choreographer, Twyla Tharp. Yes, I think that deserves some applause. I think that is... Twyla is here with us to create what is essentially a new ballet, the Illustrated Farewell. It's set to the music of Haydn's Farewell Symphony, and originally in 1973, Twyla choreographed a ballet to the last two movements called As Time Goes By. After a phone call from me and a few chats, we've come up with the idea of having a prequel. So there's a grand pas, which takes the first two movements of the Haydn Symphony, and that's a new pas de deux for Stephen McRae and Sarah Lamb, and then that joins in with As Time Goes By, and then, hey presto, we have a new ballet, The Illustrated Farewell. The Illustrated Farewell can be seen at the Royal Opera House from the 6th to the 17th of November, and it's with the first revival of Hofesh Schechter's Untouchable, and also another world premiere, Arthur Peters' The Wind. You can see details of that on our website. I don't think really that Twyla needs an introduction, but just a few statistics. She has created, I have to do this, but she has created over 160 works, 129 dances, 12 television specials, 6 Hollywood movies, 4 full-length ballets, 4 Broadway shows, and 2 figure skating routines. I think that's not bad, is it? Quite a special woman and creative artist. And I'll be chatting to her about her career, and also we'll be seeing her work with the company. And tonight she'll be working with Joseph Sissens, Anna Rosa Sullivan, Megan Grace Hincus, and Stephen McRae. You can also tweet us with any questions, and we'll try to get those to Twyla maybe at the end of the evening. And the tweet is #ROH Farewell Mixed. So I think all I can say now is welcome Twyla Tharp.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon. Evening. It's been a long day already. We've been in the studio all day working.
Working with dancers is always a short day.
That's the answer I like to hear. So I'm going to start this by the sort of obvious question, really, and that is, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into dance?
It was all my mother's idea.
Was it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah, well, you know, I've always squirmed a lot. I'm a squirmer.
Yeah.
And so, consequently, my mother thought that after I'd done a lot of toe tap in the garage, and I was already 4 years old, it was time to start a career. So I had some lessons, and there you have it.
And what was it about, I mean, were you as this amazing energy, I can tell you, across the Opera House since when Twyla came in February, and you could just feel it, that she was in the building, in the studios, and this energy, was that always there?
Oh, I suppose,
yeah.
Yes.
And that's why
Indiana.
Dance really came...
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a dynamic, and I think that anyone who dances, who has the will to dance, has an energy source that is renewed by dancing. So they're mutually infectious, yes. They infect one another.
So do you really think that dance chose you to have as a career?
Oh, I like that. Yes, I think so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so then when you first, I mean, we know people you've maybe worked with, people like Merce Cunningham, Martha Graham, Paul Taylor. Were they people that you worked with when you were young? Were the influences?
Yeah, the first thing to say is that I was fortunate in that my mother demanded the best teachers she could find for me, whether it was in piano or dancing or viola or painting or German, because we could always have another war. And so I had, by the time I was 10, I was studying with a woman named Beatrice Collinette, who was one of the 7 baby ballerinas Pavlova had here in Ivy House. So I already had kind of a sense of that classical direction. When I came to New York to study all form of dance, I was again lucky to begin to work with a woman named Barbara Fallis, who had studied at White Lodge and who taught the Royal syllabus. So that those were actually my earlier trainings in the best definition of classicism that could come from the Midwest. That's me. But they tried. They really did. And I learned a lot. Paul, I danced with for a year. Merce Cunningham, I studied with in the studio for about 5 years. And Martha, I studied the last year. She was teaching in the studio. So I saw them move. I saw their first companies move. And obviously it was very different from the ballet, but to me it was all moving. It was all just this dynamic that you talk about.
Yes, yeah, and even at that time, were you thinking about choreography?
I was never thinking about choreography, ever.
Ever?
No, I was going to be a dancer. And as it so happened, I had certain issues. For example, I went and auditioned for everyone in New York, including the Rockettes. My fortes were very good. 64, no problem. They invite me up to the table. Young lady, you're a very good dancer. Could you smile? I said, I don't think so. And I walked out. It's always been an issue. So I only started making dances because I wanted to dance.
And you didn't want to smile?
That's it.
That's why you didn't want it.
That was it.
Yeah. So, and who did you first work with to choreograph on? Yourself?
Yes, always. I'm my best worker. I have no union.
Right. And so we get to sort of going into, so you really, when you were first choreographing, it was more on a contemporary vein, but then going...
No, it was in no vein at all.
No vein.
No.
Your own vein.
No. When I began to work, we had to find that that is all of me, had to, I always address the papal we. We had to find movement that we could consider our own, that we hadn't learned somewhere. We'd learned a lot. So there was very little left for me to start with. Yeah. But that's where I tried to begin, was what I hadn't learned.
And did you feel there was I mean, at that time, there was a lot of creative things going on in New York. Did you feel that you had to go against the classicism maybe at that time?
I think that there's always that tendency for a young worker, mostly, frankly, because they don't know the classical approach and don't understand that by going, as I say, through the middle and accepting those parameters and making adjustments, one is being original. And that the flip of the coin is just that, it's the flip of the coin. So if you simply do the downside of the upside, you're really not doing anything so very novel, are you? And in any case, what is originality? Pray? There you have it.
There's originality, I think, but anyway, let's talk about...
Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. In 1973, that's when you created Deuce Coupe for Joffrey Ballet.
Okay.
So that was your first sort of major commission.
Well, I suppose.
And it uses the dreaded word, I think, for you, that it was a crossover ballet.
No, it's not a dreaded word. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what had happened is Joffrey had seen a piece called the Bix Pieces that I'd made on my own company, and it actually had a piece of Haydn in it. And from that, Bob had asked me to make a piece. And, of course, my response was, well, all right, fine. I've never seen your company, but why don't I do Swan Lake? And I meant it. And he said, I think something a little less ambitious would be perhaps more appropriate. So I set out and I made a piece called Deuce Coupe. Deuce Coupe employed his company as well as mine. We didn't work on point. His dancers didn't get down. We got down. They got up. So we had down and we had up in Deuce Coupe. But it was very successful. And thereafter, in the same year, he asked me would I make a piece, and I have known the Symphony for a very long time. I said I would employ some of it. But it was only for his dancers. So in effect, really was my first ballet.
And there, the dancers, I mean, we are lucky enough to actually have Richard Colton, who was one of the original dancers
in
As Time Goes By, and he's helping stage that section of the piece. But how did those dancers react at the first time? Because they'd been sort of separated at that point.
I didn't do very good by that crossover thing. I guess maybe I don't like it, those words. It was a cross. It was a mélange. It was a blend, douce coupe. And then when I started, as time goes by, some of those dancers, like Richard, had seen what was happening with douce coupe and had acquired a kind of fluidity. And in the 70s, there was a demarcation. There was a big fence. You had modern dance and you had ballet. And I used to study on both sides of the fence and kind of wanted a dancer who could do it all, who could work in either place, which really was not a possibility at that time. So as time goes by, I started gnawing away at the classical ballet in order to make it possible for it to have this indoctrination into another world, or at least to see, is there a meeting point, a merger that is possible between these two very different techniques. I mean, the classical ballet is open, considered high, very light. So-called modern dance, grounded, parallel, often works to the floor. Fantasy, reality. Couldn't they
merge together?
Yeah.
And you did really successfully. That, I think, probably was you were the first person to do that, really. And I think it's true, isn't it, that Misha Baryshnikov saw that piece, and it was that really started that relationship between the two of you.
That is true. He saw as time goes by and then called and said, would I make him a ballet? Because apparently I knew something about making men, or not making, allowing men to dance.
Yeah, I think giving the freedom.
Yeah, because there were moments that were very virtuosic, but there were also moments in the piece where the male dancer was allowed to be lyric, flexible, fluid, and adagio dancer, which is traditionally thought of in the world of the ballet basically as the female realm, although of course someone like Dowell would give you lots of problems there. Or, you know, any great male dancer is also a virtuosic adagio dancer, but I featured that. So as time goes by, I started with, I think, a really aggressive female solo, and ended with a very legato, lyric male solo, which at the time was gender bending.
Again, ahead of the curve.
There you have it.
Ahead of the curve.
I thought each person should be everything.
Yeah. Well, we talked. I read out these statistics about all the different variety of work you've done.
You forgot the book.
What did I?
There are 3 books. One of those has paid back.
When did you?
It's called The Creative Habit. It's still available. It makes a lovely gift.
Is it on? We'll have to get some for the shop. If we had a shop at the moment, which we don't have.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Is it on Amazon? Can you get it?
Yeah,
on Amazon?
totally.
Good. Okay, we'll put our orders in. But I mean, incredible that you had the time to do all those things. Did you feel that each thing fed off the other, and that's why you wanted to have you were asked to do these things, but that's why you took them on? Yeah,
it really is all about this machine. What can the body do? And these different approaches, I mean, language is very different from camera, it's very different from music, but they all impact on things and ideas that flow through this instrument that has infinite capacity.
And is it interesting when you think about, because when I see you in rehearsal, you're so totally in charge. You're so totally in charge of your ballet. When you talk to me about what you want to do, you know exactly what it is. When you say you're working my favorite film of mine, Amadeus, you're not the director of it.
Damn.
How do you cope
I
with that?
directed the opera sequence.
Yes. So
no,
you would
no, I'm not. But Milos is a wonderful director because when you work with a great collaborator, nobody cares whose idea it is. Does it work? Milos always had a lovely expression. Well, if it's good for the baby, fine.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I was not the director.
You're not the director, but you love that collaboration. If it's the right person.
Yeah, that was my 3rd picture with Milos.
Yes.
The first was Hair, the second was Ragtime, Amadeus was the third.
So you had that relationship, so then it works in an organic way and goes through. So talking about people we've had relationships with, the Royal Ballet, you've had a relationship for quite a few years.
A very long time.
A long time. And
no, seriously, I mean it about the technique, and I mean it about the ideal and the sense that the Royal Ballet represents the epitome of what classicism can accomplish. And that was always a companion of mine from the time I was 8 years old, like so many children.
Yeah, so it feels slightly full circle coming back again.
Not full circle. It feels earned, and I'm humbly grateful for the opportunity to see if what I understand can be understood by the audience.
Yeah. And have you noticed in the time, you know, because of course the repertoire of ourselves, like a lot of other companies, has broadened over the years, you know, you being one of the people to start that, really. Do you feel the dancers of today are more comfortable getting into your style of movement than maybe they would have been 20, 25 years?
I try to keep them from being comfortable. I think that there's certainly, I think that it's not just choreographers, it's dancers like Misha who have been willing to push the parameters, not only willing but demanding. I mean, the greater the dancer, Darcy Irak, with whom I had the opportunity to work when I was here first, the great artist wants to push the boundaries. It's not about making themselves look good doing what they're comfortable with. It's about where they can take that and what discoveries people can make.
Yeah. And so with this, with having these two separate ballets in a way and bringing them together.
Terrifying. Terrifying.
It was your idea.
Never, I know. We're never returned to the past.
Yeah, yeah. But has that been fascinating to return to the past?
I'm trying to find the lesson in it. I knew it was necessary, and the lesson is this. Returning to one's own past is extremely difficult. However, when one looks at the past as the opportunity to have a bigger housing, i.e. tradition, i.e. classicism, then it's a privilege.
I can see that. I can see that. When
Thank you.
when I see what I've seen in the studio so far. So I think we have to see a bit of Illustrated Farewell, don't we?
Okay, all right. So how I'd like to do this is to begin with the end. Why not? Almost. It's almost the end. It's not really the end. And to show a bit of the old as time goes by on a young dancer.
Let's go over to our marks over there.
Let's. Thank you.
I'll cross over here.
Which is yours?
So I think that's mine for now.
Thank you.
And then I'll cross over. So we're going to introduce one of our youngest dancers in the company. He's been a year in the company, and that's Joseph Sissens. So
Hi, sweetie.
I'm gonna let Twyla do the interviewing now.
Oh, goody. Thank you. So Joseph, how do you like dancing?
I've always done it. I've always loved it. That's the bottom line for me, really.
Right. And how do you feel about being in a ballet company?
It took me a while to get used to it because I had a lot of years as a student, but do you want me to hold it, please?
That way I won't hit you with it.
But after time and the months gone by and my performances on stage, and I've gained a lot of experience in the corps de ballet and stuff, and I feel like I'm finally a professional, which is nice.
You'll always be a student. Stay there with me. Okay, so as a student, I'd like to demonstrate a few points here. Would you do a classical arabesque pirouette, please, for me? Pirouette in arabesque. Okay, thank you. So that's a revolution on one leg, essentially, with the other behind. Now, will you do what I introduced to you as a cave turn? Okay, thank you. Now, thank you. Would you really whap into that cave turn for me? Like a real whap? Thank you. Even a little more whap. Okay, there you go. That was lovely. Thank you. Now, that's called a cave turn. Thank you. Also, thank you for the first pirouette. Also very lovely. That's called a cave turn. That's called a cave turn. Because it was originally done in a piece called Cave of the Heart, which Martha Graham did. And the way that it differs from the classical arabesque pirouette is that it torques. So that's the power. Would you do one more? This is the power, straight cave turn. This is the power that causes the revolution. It comes from the torso, not from the pelvis. Do the arabesque again. This one, the power comes from the leg. So they're driven from a different source. Now, I understood both of these pirouettes, and I thought, well, how handy to use the cave turn as a preparation for a more sustained sort of classical move. So I ask now that you would do the cave turn going to a pirouette in second, fourth, close the fifth. Okay, thank you. So the cave turn then is not an entity in and of itself, but it comes a preparation for, one more time, the pirouette in the second to the fourth, right. Try one more time for me. Have from the second a higher fourth when you come around. Okay, that's what makes it very difficult, because from here the pirouette, try and get, do me again. This is fine. Do me, see if you can get the pirouette, a full pirouette in second before the fourth. Right, there you go. So that the power of the leg dropping produces yet another pirouette. Most pirouettes are done from what's called a, would you take a preparation, tendu fourth? Just tendu fourth. No, second, tendu second to the fourth behind. Right, and the plie, pirouette. And you see it coming. You always know that means a pirouette. This doesn't tell you that's going to be the pirouette and close in fifth. So that's a sort of investigation of movement. Basically, I didn't engineer that from the head. I liked to dance too, so I threw myself around, but realized, oh, isn't that handy? Because really what we're starting to do here is merge these two techniques, right? All right, thank you. So now, having Joseph to demonstrate all of this, and I'm kind of serious about being a student forever. Promise?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now, could I ask two ladies to join, please? So now we have Megan. Yes, and Anna Rose. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Now, when I started making ballets, I thought it would be good that the ladies should be able to stand on their own legs. So I made a movement section, a big long adagio, which is really not partnered, but the two ladies serve as his companions. And they are in a relationship that's not codependent in the sense that he's supporting, holding, and they're coexisting. So would you be so kind, please, as to do this trio? This is a trio out of the final adagio. There are dancers that are doing other things, but we've isolated this to show you tonight.
I'm just going to explain that the music we're using is actually a recording from a performance, isn't it? Because this is the tempos that we want to get from the orchestra.
You didn't have to tell them
well,
that.
it's a bit dodgy. So, so just in case you can hear any dodgy noises, that's why it's like.
Okay. All righty, here we go. Thank you. Okay, very nice. Thank you. Hoof. Thank you very much. Let's go back. Okay, this is called rehearsal. Now, instead of going diagonally downstage, see if you can come out here. Okay. And see for me if you can more. Okay, thank you. Here we go. Ready? Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's go back. Thank you. Woof. Thank you. Thank you, Megan. When you come through, do not go so far from them. Guys, when you're back to back, particularly, see if you can be more fluid with the movement, okay? Everybody, hello, shake, ha, relax, ha. Okay, let's go again. Here we go. Ready? Good. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, this time when you came around to him and you were touching him,
Yeah.
did you feel any differently than you have forever at any moment doing that come back to your beginning?
Right at the beginning.
Yes?
A little bit more connected with him. So
Thank you, because haven't I told you it's very important? We have to take care of him. We have to be his companion. You start as his companion. You have to see him through almost to the bitter end. She actually exits. All the dancers, all 17, pass through here, and like with the Farewell Symphony, which has its nomenclature by the fact that Haydn pulled sections of the pit out as they finished, had them exit the pit, blow out their candles until there were left only 2 violins. And there's a reason for this, which maybe I'll get to later. But in the meantime, this is about leaving. And it's not easy to leave. And I need to feel the poignancy of that sense of thing, and also the responsibility for him. Mm-hmm. Right? This young figure here in the original ballet was not a classical dancer. He didn't have Joseph's technique. But he had a vulnerability to him. Really, he was a jazz dancer. He could do this. He could never have done that pirouette. And there was also a melancholia about this lad. And that's something that you want to be able to find, because in fact, he was very connected to his destiny. And the reality is, he died 2 years later. I didn't know that at the time, but he was actually very sick. You don't have to be sick. In fact, I would rather you weren't. But you guys do have to have a sense of wanting to look after him. All right? Let's try again. Stay closer, stay closer. And Megan, even less distant. They'll watch out for you. Okay, here we go. Okay, very nice, thank you. Now she exits, and this couple is left. And would you like to do your last pas de deux before your exit? All right, here we go, ready? Mimi, please, ready? Good. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Then he's left alone, and that's the way it is. We're going to do this one more time and see if you can stay more connected to him, knowing you're going to exit. Okay, from the very beginning, know you're going to exit, but don't want to.
Okay.
All right? Just be tragic, will you? All right, thank you. Here we go, ready? Okay, very good. Thank you, thank you. All right, guys, that was very much better. The little hop in here before the exit after the revolution. Think retard. Think at the end of that pirouette that you're going to retard and you're going to just fall out. Try for it. There you go. There you go. That's the idea. So that in fact it's connected to the emotion of the thing. Not wanting to go is what will keep you on your leg.
Yeah.
All right? Wasn't that much more tragic? Didn't they do that very nicely? Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Okay, guys, I'm going to let you go, but you'll come back to me in a minute, and we're going to go on. But in the meantime, before we do go on, I'd just like to say that the privilege of working with dancers is extraordinary because, you see, they trust you, and they will try. They will try to do what you ask. It's very touching. They continue to do that. Shall we bring in one more?
We'll wait just for a second longer. I just wondered
What?
if you wanted to talk a little bit about
What?
the fact that the dancers, all those dancers that are, there's a sextet and there's couples, but you see them all as individuals, don't you? You don't
Yeah.
see them as a...
Right.
As a...
No.
About a chorus line, say. Let's
No. I've always seen dancers as fungible. If when I went to college I was not going to be a physicist or a psychiatrist, then I would be left with dancing. I've always looked at the body as a way of understanding who that individual is, because everyone has an individual signature of movement. I mean, in fact, in identity stealing, one of the best ways to not be stolen is your walk, because no two walks duplicate. So it's the study of the person through their movement that has always been of interest to me. So why would I ask one person to be another? It's always about the individual and the individual working with others together. It's unity at the same time as it's individual freedom together, right?
And with this particular piece, why the Haydn? And you said you had more to tell us about that, so come on.
Okay. All right. This symphony is a very unusual, powerful symphony. It's the 45th, and Haydn, obviously, was very prolific. This is approaching his middle years, Sturm und Drang. This is pre-romantic. Yes, he's a great classicist, but he's also no Haydn, no Beethoven. In fact, Beethoven studied with Haydn. So the notion here is that the 45th is written in a strange key, F sharp minor. It's the only symphony in the 18th century, the only one in this key, because the key is volatile. It's very hard to handle. It doesn't settle down. So the first movement has this humongous attack to it. Why? Because Haydn had a patron, a great patron called Esterházy, who had a palace outside Vienna where they went for the summer. And the patron allowed Haydn to bring the band, otherwise known as the orchestra. I prefer the band with him. So the band came along, and only Haydn could bring his family. The band only came alone. So at the end of the summer, all the musicians really wanted to go back, and Esterházy was having a lovely time and not getting going. And so the band came to Haydn and said, do something. So Haydn said, don't worry, I'll write a symphony. And so the guys are going, okay, fine. So Haydn writes a symphony that starts out with, I won't say rage, but it has power, dynamic. Then the second movement is very long, in 3, adagio. Then there's your usual sort of minuetto, which is a sort of divertissement. Then the fourth movement is also unheard of in that it's in 2 parts. The first, again, very aggressive, a march. And then he returns to the adagio, and he tails out with the adagio in the fashion that I said, where the pit empties until just the 2 violins are left. And that's the end of the piece. So what he's saying here in the 4 movements is, we have a real problem, you better fix it, and we're leaving. The legend has it that Esterházy packed up the next day and they went back. The more important part, of course, about the symphony is it's pre-revolutionary. And Haydn knew it. Mozart knew it about 10 years later when he wrote Figaro. But Haydn already knew it. So the 45th is an incredible piece of music.
Now we're very lucky to have it, and when we hear it, when the dancers hear it, live, it's going to be a fantastic moment, isn't it? From having been in the studio with the recordings and then just feeling that music with
I
them.
think so. And the conductor is going, do we really get to play all the repeats? And I said, oh, yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
So I think this is time to introduce our next dancer, who does not need an introduction, but...
But we have another wonderful dancer with us who has an even bigger kind of accomplishment in that he's maintained his sense of study, trust, and exploration for a while.
Yeah, and actually those words that you say to, I'll take that, to Joseph about still being a student, that is an example that you see in Stephen, because Stephen is there every day in class, a perfect example to all the young dancers. He's always there in time, taking the correction, and then somebody to work with in that way.
Not only is he there doing the class, he's there doing the class with the purpose of actually profiting and experiencing that class that day. He's wonderful to watch at the bar. He's absolutely focused.
Yeah, no. So,
yeah,
Mr. Stephen McCraig.
I get a hug. Thank you.
I'm going to leave Twyla to interview you.
Hello, darling. I'll come to this side. Hello, sweetness. Hello. When did you start to dance?
Wow. Never took that.
Go for it.
So I started when I was 7.
Yeah.
In Sydney, Australia. Not from arts family whatsoever. Motorsport was my...
Speed.
Exactly. Speed, adrenaline.
Danger.
Danger, a bit of risk, but also...
Adventure.
Precision.
Precision.
My father's quite particular. And yeah, so age 7 it all began.
There you are. And do you feel that you've still retained the 7-year-old?
Yeah. Yeah, my teachers were incredible from day one. They said, just jump as high as you can, spin as fast as you can. They wanted me to be free. They didn't care if it wasn't perfectly formed or shaped. They just wanted me to experience what it felt like to be absolutely free. And I still hold on to that.
Thank you. Good. Now, so absolutely free puts me in the right place to say the thing that is so extraordinary about this young gentleman here is that he's free at the center of enormous discipline. He's a classicist of the highest order. It goes like this. Classicists turn out to be romantics. Romantics turn out to be, excuse me, damned fools. All right? So at the heart of this classical armature, you have the young man who is 7 at heart. All right? Will you do for us your first entry? He opens the ballet. He opens the ballet all by himself. He opens the ballet with his power coming out of the pit. Vah! And you're going, okay, how's he going to keep doing this for 14 minutes? He does. Okay, here we go. Oh, stop! We have to go back. Thank you. Sorry, Mimi. Let's try it again. Okay, cueing is obviously very important, and this is a strange thing here because he starts actually before the music, so it's hard to cue. I doubt that this has been seen that often. The conductor is actually taking the cue from him. So she's trying to hook up from being blind back there. Nope, try it again, thank you. Now you're seeing rehearsal.
Let's just have a practice. Let's try it again, see if it...
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Do you want to do it for me or you?
Yeah, if you stand by, I'll do it.
Are you all right, Stephen? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay, thank you very much. So that's the... So that's coming out of the gate. And because he'll be in the air, you'll actually see him before you hear the music. The dancing takes a bit of precedent, and the music gives it a push. We talk sometimes in fun about how have I done in terms here of making a classical pas de deux. And I asked Stephen, how many pas de deux, which of course is a grand pas de deux for a couple, and they usually feature variations in partnering beginning and end. How have we done in relation to the grand pas de deux that you've done?
Well, the classics are obviously the most demanding, but we were talking and we said that a classical pas de deux goes from A to Z. You have everything in there. But this goes A to Z, back to A in probably 10 or 12 languages.
Right.
And yeah.
It's good for you,
That's probably
right?
the best way I can describe it.
Thank you, my darling. So, but I could only do it on an extraordinary vehicle. This is an extraordinary vehicle who has parked in it. No, it's my dad sold cars. Your dad drove them. What's your problem here? We're vehicles, man, right? We're good vehicles. We are. He has got a lot parked under the hood, and it's my obligation. I hope I haven't said something bad there. Yeah, I'm trying to keep my language clean tonight. He has so much in his memory muscle bank that I only have to get a little sense of something, then we can extend it, and I get out of the way, is how I put it. So this first entry obviously has a lot of power to it. It's all about dynamic. It's all about his attaining that. It's a sort of ultimate Haydn-esque, it's an allegro, but the markings are allegro assai, which is very allegro. It's not just dynamic, it's very dynamic. And would you do your second entry? This is his second little solo in the same movement. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Now, this one is slightly different from the previous one in its intention, which is what, Stephen? What's its intention?
Well, the first entrance, you are trying to set the bar there. If you've already set the bar there, you can't continue to just try and do that again.
Bash it out.
Yeah, so now we're playing with speed.
Right. So let's do it one more time for the folks. But would you do me a favor, just for kicks? He's never done this before. First of all, would you come in one wing down? Yeah. Would you do what you do in slow motion?
Okay. Guns is nightmare.
Yeah, yeah. Just, you can do this.
So you run out, da, 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 da. Kick back.
Right.
Turn under.
Right.
Step, you jump forward.
Right.
Plie.
Right.
Jump.
Now, hold on. One thing. You see how that fifth, go one more time from the fifth to the poisson. So from here to the jump is coming up. He couldn't do that if he hadn't already attained this. So in effect, it's about the efficiency that creates speed, right? And then from there, boom. And
not being obvious here.
Yeah, no. The thing is, he beats Haydn to the punch. Haydn's going to come in with a boom, but we get there first. So when Haydn comes from behind, it's like the sails are up and the wind goes into it, rather than here's the wind and you're trying to get through it, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Vonk from here.
Then
We
little
go.
play.
Little play, yes.
Little syncopation.
Yes. Little come back and through.
Using the whole back.
Using the whole back, throw it around.
Go back the other way.
Right, and
Surprise.
right. That is a very difficult move, what he just did. The triple pirouette to the sauté without closing the fifth or going to a fourth in the preparation is doing what I asked for, really, from the cave turn going to the second and fourth. It's using momentum to keep it moving without having to break. Would you do that one more time? I love that move. By the way, I didn't invent this. He just did it one day. I said, oh, okay. I probably like it because I didn't have to work on it. Right. Right. Very cool. Now would you do it up to tempo one more time for us? Fly, Stephen, fly. Here we go. Ba, ba, ha, hey. Thank you very much. Right, thank you. So there you are. Thank you so much. So only a truly disciplined, generous soul can find the fortitude to go to class every day, to move deeper and deeper into that channel and be free at the same time. Now we'll go to the Adagio. This is the second movement, and here's a solo variation that Stephen has in the Adagio. Yeah, he's trying to breathe. It's a problem. Good. Thank you, Stephen. Okay. So now, would an audience member like to volunteer the correct answer, please, to the following question? What did Stephen begin that movement with? Come on, somebody, risk it. Go for it. Who said that? I love you all who said a cave turn. So the answer is a cave turn, and this is in the second movement, and the cave turn that you saw Joseph do is in the fourth. So what I did in creating, nobody creates, in making the first two movements was to retrofit the movement and, in effect, make a prequel so that the couple becomes the titans who introduce the old ballet. And at the end, the trick was to wed the titan with the following, even though the following had come first. I don't know. That's how it worked. Okay, can we see his second Adagio, please? But the cave turn, good for you guys, good. You must have seen dancing before. Okay, here we go. Yeah, a little more, the same place, a little more lead in. Mimi, thank you. Good. Okay, thank you very much. So this one is further along. It's like 2/3 of the way through the piece, and by now the approach to the technique of the dancing has altered. The first is relatively straightforward in terms of the coordinations, the port de bras, so forth, and now it becomes a welded thing which has got a different kind of torso involvement than the nothing the matter. Just take it somewhere a little further on. And what about that sliding? Is that about your favorite part?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
7 again.
Yeah, yep. And so I promised Stephen he got a moment for all of his good-sported nature of working all day, coming in the evening and trying new things. He got some free-form slide time. So let's have a little bit of free-form slide. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sweetie. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. In all truth, I didn't know him before, but shortly after, as time goes by, was done, how many people here know who John Curry was? Ice skater. Great ice skater. I made two pieces for John in between, as time goes by, and this. And I always do have a moment of thinking of him, a wonderful artist. Okay, now we're going to go back to the ending of the As Time Goes By, which is where we started. So Joseph, will you come back to us, please? Okie dokie. Now, Joseph is going to have a little solo passage here, and Stephen is going to join in. In the day, Stephen will be very high up. He'll be on the elevators in the back, so you'll be able to see him above Joseph. But for tonight, you won't see that happen. All right, so you'll come in at your appropriate cue. Watch out for the piano, okay? Yeah, okay. So can we have, please, from Joseph solo? Thank you. Oh, yeah, hold on. Right, hold on. Mimi, I need from the beginning, honey. Sorry, further back. Yeah. Oh, okay. And he fades, and he's left. Right, thank you very much. So, thank you. So that you guys have now seen the ending better than I have. We haven't seen this yet, but the notion here is that midway, for a very short period of time, they're in unison. And that's the only time it happens in the entire ballet, and then they cross. He looks forward to where he is. One dancer in his prime, one dancer to go there. And that means that even though he finishes the ballet, Joseph finishes the ballet alone because Stephen will have been in a spot and it fades just before Joseph comes across, he's not alone. Stephen's up there. So that's the thinking of the illustrated farewell. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You're welcome.
I've got a few questions from
goody.
From the world out there.
Okay.
And this is from Gillian B.
Uh-huh.
What is it like to choreograph on dancers as versatile as those in the Royal Ballet?
Heavenly. Next.
Just heavenly.
Is there something the matter with heavenly?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. That's good. So this one's from Leah, and this says, how did the people who taught you influence your dance style today?
Okay. It not only influences me, it influences every dancer I work with. I always say I can only do what the dancer does. And what the dancer does is what the dancer has been taught, trained, shared with since they're tiny children. And so every time you see a dancer, you're seeing 10, 20, 40, 60 teachers lined up behind them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You talked about the first teacher that you had that was had been trained in England.
Beatrice Culinary.
Yeah. Was there another one later on that was really
classical?
Yes, classical.
I mean, I would say that I'm grateful to all. Mm-hmm. I mean, Balanchine, I couldn't take his classes. Mm-hmm. He only taught company. Mm-hmm. I had the privilege of knowing him a bit. I certainly had the privilege of seeing his work and seeing how the man cared for detail and how the inclusion of everything was the point. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that was the hugest lesson in terms of choreography. As a dancer, I mean, you know, there was
Many.
many.
Okay, and then Kingdom of the Tides is a tweet name, I think. How much does the individuality of the dancers influence the piece?
Huge. I have to fall in love. I always say the way I choose my dancers is, boom, I'm infatuated, I fall in love. And that's with an individual. It's with their commitment, it's with their courage, it's with their beauty, it's with their intelligence, it's with their sense of humor, it's their willingness to let go of everything they know and go out there and just start it all over again, and it will flow through them with the inclusion. And how do I know that? I look in their eyes and I watch how they fold their clothes.
Was that what you were doing in ballet class when you came
Yes.
to watch your ballet class?
I watched them fold their clothes.
And how they walked out of the...
I do, yes.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I think that's all our tweets. And I think Stephen's going to have that on his epitaph.
Fold your knickers, right?
Fold your knickers.
Yeah.
So I want to say to our audience out there, I think I'm looking at this one, huge thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
It's been...
And thank you, dancers and company and so forth.
Yeah, and
the Royal.
Mimi there sorting us out with the music. But it's a huge privilege to have you here
Thank you,
at the
sweetheart.
Royal
No.
Ballet.
Seriously, thank you, and thank you all. And thank you all. No, hold on. Thank you all for supporting the Royal Ballet, because you are what makes it happen. And you have to remember that. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you. And for all of you out there, I just want to say, of course, the Illustrated Farewell premieres on the 6th of November. Please do see if there's any seats left. I think seeing what you've seen tonight with the incredible Twyla Tharp makes me want to go out and buy a ticket, so I'm sure you do too. So huge thank you again to our wonderful dancers of the Royal Ballet, but also, of course, the amazing Twyla Tharp, and thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetie. Now do we get to talk to the people?